Quick disclaimer, all footage you see in this video is captured from the Switch version of Fairy Tail. Going into Fairy Tail, I wasn't sure how well the game would grab me. I've tried the series before and will admit dropped it relatively early on. In preparation for this review, I got myself caught up to a certain point so I could have a better grasp and appreciation for the game and events it would be covering. And I'm glad I did, because from the moment you start the game, Fairy Tail thrusts you into the final climactic battle of Act 1 right before throwing you into the series' time skip. No explanation on who these characters are, why they're fighting, how their powers work, or really anything at all. You get a little blurb describing each arc that led up to these events, but each one is so laughably short they may as well not have even included them. One could argue this is excusable since this game is targeted towards those that are already fans of the series, but doing this unfortunately guarantees you won't be making any newcomers interested in the Fairy Tail series with this game. This isn't helped by the fact that what plot is in this game goes by at a breakneck speed. There isn't much time to make the player care about these characters or their motivations. Now, with all that being said, at its core, this game isn't a bad RPG. It does a lot of things well from a gameplay perspective. Attacks are flashy and fun to look at, and there's almost a surprising amount of mechanics in place here, some that are even cleverly tied to the lore of the Fairy Tail universe. Enemies face you on a grid, and every attack in the game hits a set number of grid spaces, whether it be just one, two adjacent spaces, or even more crazy attacks that can hit the entire enemy grid. Many of your attacks also move enemies around so that you can better align them to maximize your damage, among other helpful effects. All attacks and skills take MP, even basic attacks, although the basic attack option in this game is borderline useless. And if your MP reaches 0, your character is knocked out the same way they would be from losing all their HP. This is a clever nod to how magic deficiency can lead to death in the Fairy Tail series. Every character also has access to an awakening mode, some having access to several, where your attacks are enhanced for a few turns along with some other bonuses like HP recovery and a boost to all stats. What's cool is that if your gauge is full, you can interrupt the enemy's attack to enter awakening mode on the spot, although it'll last less longer. You can even sacrifice a portion of your awakening gauge to do follow-up attacks with your fellow party members. All these mechanics make Fairy Tail an overall good time to play. The only real issue I have with battles is that the entire game is too easy. In fact, the only time I felt any type of challenge is when I fought an enemy almost twice my level early on in the game. I actually had to strategize and there was a real chance I could have lost. This battle was the most fun I had with my entire experience with Fairy Tail, and I would have loved to experience more of this. Outside of battles, you'll be doing a lot of side quests. Fairy Tail as a guild has fallen to the lowest rank there is and has to work their way back up, which means you as the player have to do a multitude of side quests to raise your guild rank. There will be certain parts of the story where this is a requirement to get to the next story section as well. Thankfully, this is relatively painless as it doesn't take too long and pretty much every side quest is of the typical go here and kill this or talk to this person variety. The only annoyance I have is that many of these take you to the same area to often kill the same type of enemy, but you can only accept one at a time. Being able to take on multiple quests will have easily shaved down game time, especially during segments where you have to do many of them back to back to raise guild rank. In addition to these side quests, all your party members will have their own short stories to do that do help you get to know them just a little better. As much as I hope the day one patch will fix my issues, I have to talk about the game's performance on Switch. Frame rate, while never reaching to unplayable levels, does dip frequently outside of battles and occasionally in battles with more flashy attacks going off. And a lot of the textures in this game are downright bad. I mean, Nintendo 64 era textures bad on a modern game. Bad textures rarely negatively impact my experience with the game, but the ones here are too distracting and too frequent. The game does perform better and looks slightly better on the PC and PS4, so if you really want the game and portability isn't a big selling point for you, PC or PS4 is the way to go. I didn't fall in love with Fairy Tail in the time I spent with the game, but I did have the occasional fun with his RPG mechanics. If you're already a fan of Fairy Tail and like RPGs, I'm sure you'll enjoy this game to some degree. If you're not into Fairy Tail or want to get into the series via this game, it may not be for you. But if this review gave you even the slightest interest, by all means, go for it. You may end up liking it. We'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'd appreciate it if you left a like on the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Later. A big thank you to this month's patrons, Buttermilk Mike, Nightmare Alpha, Roland Glenn, and West Hunt HD. Your support is always appreciated. Thank you guys so much. And if you want to become a patron, check out my Patreon link in the description below. Thank you guys. Later.